Welcome back to Run, Jump, Stomp, a podcast about games because we needed another. You can find the show notes for this episode, as well as other content at runjumpstomp.com. This is episode 18 for the week of June 16th, 2015. I'm Bill, your host, and this week we'll be talking about Day 1 of E3. I'll be skipping Long Play and Wishlisted for an interview with Don Thacker, director, writer, and storyteller of the upcoming Star Mazer game. Those stories plus more on this episode of Run, Jump, Stomp. Thanks for listening. The 2015 Nintendo World Championships kicked off E3 this year in the absolute best way possible. They need to do this every single year. It was extremely fun to watch. I'm not going to go through every single round, but what I will go over are just a few things. First off, the games that were played. They played Split. Well, first off, in order to get into the competition, you had to go to a Best Buy and compete with the it was the 3DS version of NES Remix 2. It came with a version of the original Nintendo World Championships mode, where you could play through just like they did back 25 years ago. So first you had to qualify and then come. Then when they got there, they played Splatoon. They also played Zelda. They did a speed run of Zelda. Another speed run that they did was Super Metroid, where they had to defeat Mother Brain and then escape. Stage 3 had Mario Kart 8 at 200 cc's, which was really fun to watch. The fourth game was Super Smash Brothers. It was really great. Right while they were getting ready for that, Reggie Fils-Aimé came out and he fought against Hungrybox, who was the winner of last year's Smash tournament. At the end of the tournament last year, Hungrybox asked Reggie if he would play him, and Reggie said, "No, I'm terrible at Smash, and I need a year to practice on the 3DS." And then he was going to come back and whoop up on some Hungrybox. No big surprise here. Reggie lost horribly. There was trash talk afterwards. It was kind of funny. They also unveiled a brand new, previously unannounced game, and that is Blast Ball, which was a total surprise to me. It's like soccer in space with giant robots, and you can't touch the ball because the ball does damage to you. You have to shoot the ball, and every time you get a goal, your goal gets smaller, so it makes it harder for you to score the higher your score. This was really cool because it means that it gives whoever's lower an easier time to catch up. And I always love games where there's more back and forth. I don't like a blowout. The final stage was Super Mario Maker, and that is now the name of the game. And man, this game looks fantastic. If you watch the video, and I won't say who won, but if you watch the video of the Super Mario Maker challenges, the guys at Nintendo Treehouse designed some fantastically difficult stages, and the crowd was cheering as these guys were making these incredibly difficult jumps. It was very fun to watch, and at the end, Shigeru Miyamoto came out and awarded the winner with their trophy as well as signed 3DS for both the winner and the first runner-up. Nintendo needs to do the Nintendo World Championships every year because it was incredibly fun to watch, and it is a great way to kick off E3. So Nintendo, keep it up. All right, so I just want to go over real quick the most interesting news to me for Microsoft's press conference, which happened today at E3. Right now it's 3:15 p.m. Eastern on the 15th of June. And the first piece of information that came out, pardon me, is that Minecraft is coming to HoloLens. Now, we kind of assumed that this was something that was going to happen because they showed Minecraft in the HoloLens, like their sizzle reel, basically. So it looks like they're gonna have. It looks like they're going to have some, like, you'll be able to hook it up to your PC, and you'll be able to use like an Xbox controller with it, and then you'll also be able to, and you'll be able to play it like normal. So what that means is that the HoloLens is going to create like a video window so that you can see the game as if you were sitting at a computer, which I don't really get why you would do that, but okay. But then they didn't stop there. They said HoloLens also enables you to recreate your virtual world like on a table, so then you could look at the table and you could look down over, it says like your whole world, but whatever section it is that Minecraft is broken into chunks, and so my guess is you'll have a certain number of chunks that you can put on the screen, so then you can sit there and look at that from above and probably interact with it. You'll be able to pinch and zoom, and then with your hands, and then you can get rid of blocks and add blocks as you want. I think that this sounds really, really interesting. The next piece of information that I thought was really cool from Microsoft was that they announced that the Xbox One Elite customizable controller. Basically, I guess there are pro controllers out there. I'm not a pro player, so I don't know. And the parts are interchangeable so that you can get exactly the stuff that you like. Microsoft is putting out their own pro controller where you can take out various parts so you can get the thumbstick that feels right for you and the D-pad that feels right for you, and I guess they just kind of snap in. The picture that they show for the Elite customizable controller has a really interesting D-pad. I think that this might be, like, I've never seen a D-pad like it. It almost looks like, I don't know if the word is convex or concave, but rather than having the middle of the D-pad up, the middle of the D-pad is depressed into the controller, and on the sides, in a tic-tac-toe formation, the sides are raised up above the center of the controller. I feel like this is going to really be an interesting way to interact with a controller. This looks really cool. I guess arguably the biggest news for the Xbox was that the Xbox One is going to have backwards compatibility. So that means if you buy an Xbox One, your Xbox 360 games should run on the Xbox One, and they said by this holiday season. They also said it won't be all games to start with, so it looks like they're ramping that up. And this seems to me like it's probably a software solution rather than a hardware solution. So it seems to me like the Xbox One must be powerful enough that they can write an emulator that runs on the Xbox One hardware that emulates in software Xbox 360 hardware. That's pretty impressive. I'm surprised that this is something that they're doing. I mean, last generation, we had backwards compatibility at the beginning, and then that backwards compatibility was taken away. Like the PS3 shipped with backwards compatibility for the PS2, and then slowly over time they started taking these features away. Now, am I going to buy this? It's not going to make me buy one, but it's a nice feature. I think this is really more aimed at people who have a 360, which is me, and they look at all of the 360 games that they have, and they're like, well, if I buy an Xbox One, I'm not going to be able to play these games. So, I'm not going to buy an Xbox One. Now, I'm not going to buy an Xbox One because they don't have the games that I want. Or that's not true. They don't have exclusives that I want. That being said, they did mention that there is something exclusive to the Xbox One, and that is Fallout 4. Now, let me rephrase that. I didn't phrase that the right way. Apparently, Fallout 4 on Xbox One will work with mods that are created for the PC. And it'll come with Fallout 3, so you'll be able to play both. Now, I would prefer to buy Fallout 4 from Steam, which is probably where I'll get it, because I'm a PC gamer mostly. But for non-PC gamers, this is awesome. I actually bought Skyrim more than once. I bought it for the Xbox 360 first, and then when I had a beefy enough computer to run it, I bought it again on my PC so that I could play it with the mods. This is really cool, and I'm curious if this is an exclusive because Microsoft makes Windows. Because Sony, I don't know if Sony's going to be able to deal with this. But I don't know if Sony's going to be able to replicate this. That's a very interesting announcement. So there you have it. That's what I found to be the most interesting stuff from the Xbox conference. Or I'm sorry, the Microsoft conference. That's Minecraft on HoloLens, the Xbox One Pro controller, backwards compatibility, and Fallout 4 with mods on the Xbox One. Thanks for listening. So the big news from the EA press briefing, number one was Star Wars Battlefront. It looks beautiful. They showed some gameplay from it looked like a Hoth battle scene where there were AT-ATs and stuff, and Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker were there, and it was actual gameplay footage, which is awesome, and it looked gorgeous. It really makes me want a next-gen console. I still probably won't get this game because it doesn't have a single-player campaign. I'm not interested in a shooter online, especially a twin stick, or not twin stick, but a controller-based shooter online. I'm just not good at those. I need a mouse and keyboard. So I probably won't be playing Star Wars Battlefront, even though that game looks fantastic. Then there was Mass Effect Andromeda, which I would be excited about, except it doesn't come out until December 2016. I think that EA could take a page from, oh my gosh, who was it? Bethesda, sorry. Dead silence there. I could not think of it. I think that the EA should take a hint from Bethesda and not announce their games so far in advance. Fallout 4, which was just announced less than a month ago and really only shown stuff yesterday, is coming out in November. When he was interviewed, the head guy, I forget his name off the top of my head, I should have written it down. He said that too many companies announce their games way too far in advance in order to build hype. But then either the game doesn't get put out on time, and that means all that hype is deflated, and now you've lost the trust of your customers. This happened with Nintendo this year. They said Zelda's coming in 2015. And now it's not. And a lot of customers are very irritated with that. Now, I understand why they're irritated, but I would rather them make the game and have it be finished properly. But would be the real solution the solution that Nintendo and EA should use. Don't announce a game until you're done with it. Then, when you're just doing polishing, bug fixes, beta testing, that's when you announce a game. The other thing that was announced by EA is this weird puzzle platformer about a ball of yarn. It looked really cool, and I'm definitely interested in this game. It's called... I forgot what it's called. Unravel. The game's called Unravel, and you play a little red ball of yarn who tries to connect the pieces of life, I guess. And it's a platformer. And this little ball guy made out of yarn, he navigates through a human world. And so he's small, and everything looks big compared to him. So you kind of get that scale there, like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids kind of thing. It looks really cool. I like the way it looks. I'm looking forward to that game. Those are the only 3 things from EA that I really gave a crap about. And most people were really down on EA if you looked at Twitter. Mostly because it was a bunch of sports ball stuff that I don't care about. And I guess a lot of other people don't care about either. I always thought I was in the minority on that. I guess not. EA needs to... They've spent so long just ripping customers off that people don't care about them anymore. And I wonder if it's too late for them to turn it around. That being said, I'm sure people are going to run out and buy Madden and run out and buy all the other sports ball games they announced. And somebody said, now I missed this because I was doing something in the other room, but somebody said that a guy actually announced that you could pay $20 to get a game early. So you could get it on the regular street date for $60, but for $80, we'll let you buy it 2 weeks early. Really? If it's done and ready to ship, then just ship it. Stop trying to nickel and dime us to death. Now, I only saw that in like 2 places. So I'm not sure if that's corroborated. I like to have 3 sources on everything I say, and I couldn't find that. So if you know that that's BS and I shouldn't have reported that, then let me know. Send an email to runjumpstomp@gmail.com. And if you can show me where that's corroborated, that'd be great too, because I want to read about it. But, Tuesday's tomorrow, and I don't have a lot of time to get this show put together, so... That's it for EA. Okay, so I just finished watching the Ubisoft. I don't know how to say it. I'm pretty sure it's Ubisoft. I think that's how I heard them say it. Anyway, off on a tangent there. I just got done watching the Ubisoft demos. The one thing I gotta say, the first thing I have to say about the Ubisoft demo is I love that they showed actual gameplay footage, and many times people actually playing the game right then, rather than just like a sizzle reel. I found that really refreshing. I thought that was cool. They showed quite a few interesting titles. The ones that really stood out to me were For Honor, which looked like a medieval melee first-person combat game. Or was it third-person? I think it was third-person. That game looks fantastic. They said it was 4-on-4, but there was also bots running around. So you had 4 players versus 4 players, and then there were a whole bunch of other soldiers running around with you, fighting with swords and shields and stuff. The animations looked really fantastic. The animations were top-notch. The graphics looked really great. I think they said it was running on a PS4, but I'm not positive. I was watching it on my phone, and I couldn't quite tell which controllers they had in their hands, but they were playing it live, and that's cool. The next thing that jumped out at me was, I guess that I'm old. I don't know who this guy was, but they brought out some guy to sing a song that I've never heard of. Apparently it's number 1 on the top 40. It's a video game conference. Show a game. I know they kind of showed the game is Just Dance 2016, and they had it going on behind the guy during the concert, but really, I don't think that gamers really care about having a top 40 performer come and sing at a gaming event. Now, I feel like I'm being a little hypocritical, because when they put Heroes of the Storm on ESPN2, I basically said, suck it up, sports fans. This is cool stuff. So maybe I'm being a hypocrite here. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just because I don't care about dancing games. They did make a couple of interesting announcements, mostly because of the technology that interested me. The first thing was that you could play these games without having a camera connected to your console. They said that you can use a phone as your control input. So I guess you're holding a phone in your hand, or maybe it's in your pocket, or maybe you strap it to your waist or something and dance around. I know that like the newer phones can tell if you're walking or running or riding a bicycle or something for fitness tracking. Can they really tell if you're doing the right thing for these Just Dance games? I've never played one. I just find that really fascinating. The idea that a phone in your pocket could tell if you were doing the movements the correct way in order to score the high points or whatever. The second piece of information that they said about Just Dance 2016 was that there was also going to be Just Dance unlimited. Come on. Just Dance Unlimited, which is a subscription plan where they continually give you new songs all year long. I don't know how much it costs. They didn't announce that. But if you really like the game, then that's kind of cool. You could just have a subscription to your Just Dance game, and it would keep going. Now, my question is, do you have the subscription that you pay all year long, and then when Just Dance 2017 comes out, do you have to buy a new Just Dance 2017 and have a subscription to that as well? Or does having the subscription just continually update the game, like World of Warcraft or other subscription-based games? That's the real question. They showed a couple other things. The ones that really jumped out at me, the last one that really jumped out at me that I thought, wow, that looks great, was Rainbow Six. It felt like, and they had guys sitting there at the stage working together. They had played before and lost at rehearsal, and then they actually won this time. Now, I don't know if that was staged or not, but it looked really cool. I just know that if I would play this game, like these guys were playing at a level way beyond anything that I would ever be able to do. And I used to raid in World of Warcraft, where you really had to have your timing down and get things right. But then again, this seemed like the AI would be, I guess the word I'm looking for is more advanced than in World of Warcraft. In World of Warcraft, when you're in a raid, the same thing happens every time. And you just have to learn the pattern, figure it out, and hope that the other people in your raid also figure it out. This seemed like they weren't sure where people were going to come from, because the AI would make different decisions every time. That's really cool. I really like the idea of this Rainbow Six game. I just worry that it'd be too difficult for me. I'm getting old. The Sony press conference was really great. They kicked off things. Well, I'm not going to go through everything that they showed, but they showed some really great stuff. The things that stood out, I think, number one, new IP from actually I didn't see who made the game, but Horizon looks beautiful. If you didn't see the preview, it's like it takes place in the future, and I won't say humans were wiped out, but our civilization basically got reset, and all of our cities have been taken over by the wilderness, and now there are people who have like bows and arrows and stuff, and they have to fight the robots that we've built to survive. It looked really, really great, and I think that my next gen console is going to be a PS4. I haven't decided yet, but this game looked fantastic. Now, the next game that was shown was No Man's Sky, which I had heard people talk about No Man's Sky before, but I had never seen it. And it's this space exploration game, and the guy that was demoing it, he showed, like, I guess I would say millions of planets, and then he just picked one at random. And he went there, and it procedurally generated what was on this planet. He went down and landed on the planet, and then he started exploring, and there were like these robots there that were trying to protect the planet from him. And then he made it to some beacon and uploaded his discovery to the world, so other people in the game could find what he had found. That looked really crazy. Dreams looks absolutely bonkers. It uses the motion controls of the PS4's controller, and the way that it works is like you hold down a button and you move it around, and it lets you draw in 3D. Then it lets you animate your drawing with like puppeteer movements using the motion controls of the PS4. And so you do this drawing and this animating, and then it links your dream to other people's dreams, so then you can other players can step into it, and they can go from one to the next and see what people have made. I'm not sure if it's a game or if it's just like this really cool thing, but it looked absolutely trippy. The next thing that I thought looked cool was Firewatch. Firewatch looked like a first-person wilderness survival game, and there's the guy is talking to somebody on a radio, and that's the only other person that he talks to in the game, apparently. And at the end of the trailer is when they really grabbed me. Like, it looked really nice. The graphics were great. But at the very end of the trailer, the person on the radio said, "Wait, you're not in your tower?" And the protagonist said, "No, I'm not." And she goes, "Then who is?" And then the main guy looks at his tower, and then the trailer cut. I thought that was a really good good way to make people wonder, all right, what's going on in this game, because it looked really great. Now, I think the biggest announcement that they made at the Sony press briefing was that they're making a Final Fantasy remake. They, right before it came out, they showed this bizarre world of Final Fantasy where it had all like Final Fantasy characters, and they were all little or big, and they looked like a bunch of toys. I wonder if that's a way that they're going to get into the plastic crap market. I'm not sure. But then they showed that they were remaking Final Fantasy VII coming to the PS4. That right there is what clinched it for me. I'm fairly certain that I'm going to be getting a PS4. The graphics looked beautiful, but it was just a cutscene, so I don't know when it's coming out. I don't know much about it. I just know that I love Final Fantasy VII. I put hours into that game when it came out. Then they started talking about TV. They had an interesting announcement where you'll be able to buy a la carte TV from them, but I don't want TV in my gaming press briefings, so just keep it to gaming, Sony. That the announcement, while interesting, wasn't about games, and they think that they should keep it about games. Then they showed Call of Duty, and I couldn't quite... It seemed like they were saying that it was a PS4 exclusive, which that's a pretty big get. Now, I don't play Call of Duty, so I don't care about that. But that's weird. Like, I'm surprised if that's true. I don't like exclusives. I really don't like them. I'm not interested in exclusives. I wish that I could just buy the console that I like, and third parties would make their games for everybody. First party exclusives I'm fine with. That makes sense. But third party exclusives, it just irritates me. The next thing is, then they showed Disney Infinity 3.0, which I'm going to be getting because my son loves those games. And they said that in order to get the episode 4, 5, and 6 of Star Wars content for Disney Infinity 3.0, you have to get it through PlayStation. I hate this. I think it's a timed exclusive, so you'll be able to get it some later on, but my son really likes to play on the Wii U, and I don't know when I'm going to get a PS4. I probably won't get it until Final Fantasy VII comes out. So, come on, people. Stop making third-party exclusives. It drives me crazy. The final thing that they showed on the Sony press conference was Uncharted 4, and that game looks fantastic. I've never played any of the Uncharted games because I haven't had a PlayStation. I didn't ever get a PlayStation 3. Now, if Uncharted 4, I read someplace that Uncharted 4, the Nathan Drake collection, I think I'm remembering that right. I think I read that comes with 1, 2, and 3, which will be compatible with the PS4. That's awesome. So they really focused on games at the Sony press briefing, which I thought was great, with the exception of that one weird TV part. And Microsoft's only real fantastic announcement was that they would have backwards compatibility with the Xbox 360. Now, that's something that Sony already has, sort of, because they have the, you can't put a disc in. See, now the Xbox, you'll be able to put a disc in. For Sony, you're streaming your PS3 games from their servers. And I'm not sure if that's even implemented yet. But so far, I think Sony really did a great job at E3 2015. What do you think? This week, I welcome a very special guest, Don Thacker. He is the designer, writer, and director of an upcoming game, Star Mazer. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, hello. Thank you. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate being here.
Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Well, I guess I'm a storyteller. I'm Don Thacker. I was born in the year 1979. No, I grew up in the 80s. I'm super into storytelling. I don't really do anything but games and movies as far as like my life goes. I collect game consoles. I play games a bunch. I make movies and watch movies. So that's pretty much the entirety of my life. I'm a storyteller. I'm knee deep in stories all the time, and I am both a filmmaker and a game maker. I run a company called Imagos Softworks, which is a company that was spawned specifically to make Star Mazer, although I've made a number of games in the past or worked with teams who've made games in the past. And I'm also currently a writer on 2 upcoming games that have nothing to do with Imagos Softworks. but I also run a company called Imagos Films. That's IMAGOS, by the way, Imagos. It's actually the post-pupal stage of an insect. So like the butterfly is the Imagos to the caterpillar. So it's the final form kind of thing. Anyway, Imagos Films makes feature films. Motivational Growth is our first feature film. It's currently available on Steam and GOG.com, and I think it's in a Steam summer sale right now, which is pretty great, so check it out. And then we're currently in post-production on our second feature film, which is related to an upcoming video game that you'll hear about. You've already heard about it a bunch, but you don't know that there's a film coming for it, and I can't really talk about it because of NDA and whatever, but you'll see. There's a feature film coming out with a survival horror game coming out. But anyway, we also do video game commercials. That's our bread and butter for the film side. We did the Jazz Punk commercial. We did the Potato Man Seeks the Truth commercial. We did these are all live action commercials, by the way. We did the recent Ballad of Westerado, the Westerado live action interactive commercial, which was really cool. And if you haven't checked it out yet, check it out. We gamify commercials. It's not really a commercial. It's just a cool gunfight that you get to have with a bunch of live action stunt dudes and actors and stuff. It's really neat. So I tell stories for a living. The commercials I do aren't because I run a commercial company. It's because I run a film company and know game developers and want to make cool short stories in their game world. So yeah, I'm a storyteller. That's what I do. I think video games and films are a great platform for that. I think transmedia and convergence are two hot button things that we're definitely getting to. And I think storytelling across both agency and non-agency media is important for the human species.
Interesting. Can you tell me a little bit about motivational growth?
Yeah.
What is that?
Motivational Growth is a feature film I shot in late 2010, early 2011 that went into a bunch of festivals, 33 or 34 festivals, and won 28 awards, which apparently means something. And it got 15 Best of Bests, and it got distribution by traditional video game distributor Devolver Digital. Devolver Digital opened up a film line, Devolver Digital Films, which I'm sure your listeners probably know about already. Motivational Growth was one of the first films in their film line. It was pretty incredible. They actually came to us very early on because Motivational Growth is a film about a guy in the 90s who is depressed and broken and attempts suicide by chemical in his bathtub, fails miserably, and wakes up face to face with a large chunk of talking fungus voiced by Jeffrey Combs, who then spends the rest of the film trying to get Ian's life back together. But as happens in films, the mold is of questionable verisimilitude, I guess is the word. So all that said, the reason it's interesting to Devolver and the reason it's interesting to video game people is that it was the first place you got to see Star Mazer, because Ian, the main character in the film, actually at one point travels into his television. Actually, at 3 points travels into his television. It's kind of a recurring theme. He kind of has this fantasy world where he travels into his television, and one of the things he travels into is the 16-bit retro, sexy point-and-click adventure shoot 'em up Star Mazer. And in fact, there are parts in Star Mazer that you see in the film that you can never see in the game, which is pretty cool. But that film right now is available on all download platforms. I think at some point this year or early next year, it'll be available on Netflix and Hulu and stuff. But right now, it's available by like Amazon and iTunes and all the places where you can buy it. Because apparently, how it goes is you sell a thing and then you put the thing on the VOD so that people can watch it and give you hay pennies or quarters of a pennies per view. That's cool, but Devolver is doing a great job distributing it, and you should check it out. It's available right now on the Steam Summer Sale for like a little over $2 because they did the math, and I don't know how that works, but it's gotten a big spike in purchases, which is really great because anybody seeing a storyteller's story is really cool for storytellers, but also it's a really cool film, and you should check it out. And I'm not just saying it because it's my film, because I'm not the only person who worked on it. 40 people worked on it, and we all worked really hard on it, so you should check it out. And for like less than it costs to, like, I think like 1 1/2 cigarette or like crappy Starbucks coffee or something. And I'm not saying Starbucks coffee is crappy. I'm saying a crappy version of a Starbucks coffee. For less than that, you can get 3 years of hard work and an award-winning feature film. So you should check that out if you have the moment. Motivational Growth. Motivationalgrowth.com exists. The Facebook page is actually super active. The Facebook page for Motivational Growth and the Twitter account is actually super active too. It also has a Vine account because we're in the future, and Vine is apparently a thing. So check it out, Motivational Growth. Or you can find out all the stuff we do at Imagos Films at IMAGOS FILMS imagosfilms.com, you can see the other stuff we do. So that is the filming stuff.
So okay, so you see part of your game Star Mazer
Yes,
in motivational growth. Now,
correct. Yeah. So
did you
when we launched
go
Star
ahead?
Mazer as a Kickstarter, we used a 38-second trailer, which was a refactored, honed down version of 38 seconds of footage that we made specifically for Star Mazer, but used in motivational growth as television content. So our main character Ian watches television, and there's a bunch of crazy 90s commercials, and one of the commercials he sees is this trailer for Star Mazer. Which sets his mind alight, and later in the movie he travels through these shows, and one of these things he travels into, he can't travel into a trailer obviously, so he travels into a 16-bit world. So our main character is like, he gets converted to 16 bits and he runs around and has a moment in the Star Mazer universe.
So which one of those things did you actually do first?
All right, so this is a cool question. This is an interesting question. I've actually answered this question a bunch of times because it seems to be this like chicken and an egg thing. I wanted to make Star Mazer since I was 9 years old. I loved point and click adventure games, and I loved horizontal scrolling shooters and vertical scrolling shooters, but I prefer horizontal scrolling shooters a lot. The problem is none of them had, they don't really intersect very well, and point and click adventures at the time at least were really story heavy, and which is really good, and really puzzle heavy, but they didn't have much action, and a little kid wants some action, and shmup games had a lot of action, but very little story. Mostly it's go shoot the alien. So I wanted to marry those two things, and my dream game was a game that combined these two things. So that idea, that seed was planted. So cut to 2009. I'm writing motivational growth, and I'm writing these elements where a character jumps into the television. Ian jumps into his television shows, and I come up with these shows. Tame Katakana is a guy selling Japanese knives. There's Kathy Brathanar and the Tiger Team 12, which is this exercise routine show from the 90s. There's a hip-hop yoga instructor. There's Officer Zygor, Alien Cop. And those are all things you can see in the movie. But one thing you can't see in the movie is a Mexican melodrama, telenovela called El Demonio que hace Trofeos de los Hombres, which was something that I wrote. The little telenovela thing. It was going to be a Mexican like Telemundo style telenovela that Ian would pop into, and he would get, the woman would yell at him and slap him in the face, and there was like Muchacho and Hombre, and those were the main characters, and it just a weird weird cookie cutter telenovela thing. What does this have to do with Star Mazer? Well,
good question.
we were getting ready to shoot that, and I was trying to find locations and stuff, and we were writing it all out, and it was becoming increasingly difficult, and I stopped caring. I stopped liking El Demonio que hace Trofeos de los Hombres, and at the same time met a really cool pixel guy, and was working with some game makers to make some game stuff, and I realized that each one of these episodes had a chunk of money kind of set aside for it. I'm a director. I had a producer at the time, though we were both owned the same business, so I had access to the money, and I took the money that was supposed to go to El Demonio que hace Trofeos de los Hombres, and I started building a game with it, which is a bold maneuver. I was kind of burned out on the telenovela thing, and I was really into the idea that we could make part of Star Mazer, and this was aided by the fact that there was this mishap with some footage where we needed to get some kind of animation in there anyway. So I was like, cool, let's kill two birds with one stone. Let's spend some of the money. Let's get a cool prototype art design done for Star Mazer. Let's get some sprites done for Star Mazer. Let's work on this whole thing, which it wasn't called Star Mazer at the time. It was called Helix Nebula, but whatever, Star Mazer. Then let's include it in the film to get the value back, which explaining to your producer that you've just taken a bunch of money and used it on a video game when you're trying to make a movie is a really rough proposition. But when you follow that up with, but guess what? It's going to be an amazing part of the movie and make the movie much more valuable and all the other stuff. Then it becomes really cool. Now I've kind of dramatized the story a little bit. I didn't steal money, and I didn't just randomly decide to put a video game in a movie. It was a maneuver that I saw we were capable of doing, and it did patch a footage problem later when we had some footage missing, we went back to the same animator and had him do some more footage, so Ian could travel into the TV one additional time to cover up for an issue that took place with some of the footage. So that said, the animator for the original Star Mazer concept was Jeremy Perrin, who is an animator in Paris. He's really incredible. He did Trucker's Delight and a recent set of Flares videos. He's an incredible director, an incredible animator. We originally approached him when we decided to make Star Mazer a real life thing. And he did not want to do it because he's not a game maker. He's an incredible director. It's kind of like going to like Steven Spielberg and saying, "Hey man, you want to draw some game stuff?" Or you know what I mean? It doesn't really work. He's an incredible artist. He did a cool pixely thing for us, but that's not all he does. And he's I guess way above our pay grade is the appropriate terminology. He's far more famous than us. So we did find a clutch of really great pixel artists who do nothing but pixel art for a living, like that's their gig, and they make games and pixel art. So we're using his original designs that were his designs, but through me, I was the director of it, so I pitched it and approved it and whatever. So we're using original designs by Jeremy Perrin, and then those are expanded on and grown by our internal pixel team, which is a great way for it to have ended, I think.
Yeah, the art in that game in Star Mazer is absolutely beautiful. I would love to see a Star Mazer comic book, because
what's
that
interesting
art
about
is
that
fantastic.
is keep your eyes on the internet this Monday for an announcement.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah. Maximo Villarenzo, our head art guy, is also a comic guy. He's included in the new oh man, I just lost it. You'll have to forgive me.
Okay.
Very cool art compilation comic game thing that I don't remember the name of. I'm sorry. Go look him up. His name's all over it. I'm not into that. I'm not knee deep into that scene. I'm into the scene as a consumer, but not as. But it's a big deal. Udon. Yes, Udon. He's part of an Udon compilation, and his art is all in it, and it's really cool. And you should check it out. But he's also really into comics. So I am not at liberty to say anything. But if I had the opportunity and perhaps an artist who was into comics to make comics, we'd probably make a comic.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, if you're listening to this now, it's probably this episode comes out on Tuesday, so go back in time and see what happened on Monday.
Just go to starmazer.com. Go to starmazer.com and check out our dev blog, and you'll probably see an announcement there.
Very cool. Awesome.
If we were to ever do something comic booky, you might see it there.
Yeah, I mean, we're not saying that you would see it there, that you definitely see it there. It's that you might, if that something would strike your fancy.
This is like that movie Primer right now. Like I can actually leak stuff, can't I? Because it's after it would have been leaked. So
that's correct.
We're traveling in time. So let's scratch what we just said, jump back through time. So we announced yesterday that we're working with Dimension Drive. They have a successful Kickstarter. We put our stuff together, and if you look, there's a really cool 3-panel comic style, like manga style comic announcement of our connection, our cross promo with them, our crossover with them. Their story is going to be heavily affected by our story, and our story is going to be affected by theirs, because Dimension Drive by Two Awesome Studios is amazing. And because the Kickstarter just ended and they were totally successful. I don't know if that's true, but we're traveling through time. So it was totally successful and amazing. And you'll see that just yesterday we announced our crossover with a really cool comic panel, and that cool to do, and it got us to talking about internal stuff and how one day very soon, we might in fact do a comic. So there you go. We just did a time travel leak. But it's not a leak, it exists.
Right. Everybody knew about that already, so this is not breaking news.
Yeah, we had accidentally traveled back in time a few minutes ago.
Right.
But now we're back in real time. It's Tuesday now, and it's great. I love Tuesday. The weather is great. One of my cats died over the weekend. I don't know how it happened, but it's okay.
That's so random. I love it.
Yeah, it didn't happen. Well, not yet. Oh my God, I'm stuck in a time rift.
There's a paradox. Somebody called Doc Brown. So does Ian collect gaming consoles like you do?
Ian Folliver, the main character in Motivational Growth, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
He is actually a game programmer. We never say it, but it's very clear if you look at his bookshelf, if you look at his old computer, he is in 1991 he quit his job and is trying to make video games. We never really say it. In fact, I don't know that the actor knew that, but it was definitely, if you look at the set design and stuff, that's what his life was. You don't really pay attention to his previous life much, but he has comic books. He has how to program games, how to program computers. He has a computer there. He's got sketches everywhere. So pay attention. It's very subtle, but it's in there. So he was super elated by the 1990s 16-bit era. So you'll see that. Ian is not a representation of me in any form outside of like a small depressed period when I was like 19 or something. But other than that, there is some cool game references he makes throughout the movie. And importantly, and I can't believe we didn't mention this. Maybe we did. I don't know. I haven't. We've been traveling time so much. I'm not sure. But the game soundtrack, or sorry, the movie's soundtrack. Look at this. The movie's soundtrack, Motivational Growth soundtrack, is done entirely in chiptunes. It was done by Alex Maurer, who's a co-founder of Imago Softworks with me, an amazing chiptunes artist. You can find, he was just picked up by Brave Wave, which is the representation that represents KJ Yamagishi and Manami Matsumai. Now Alex Maurer is with them. He's also, like I said, the co-founder of Imago Softworks, and he's the sound designer and music guy for Star Mazer. He also did the entire soundtrack of Motivational Growth with a Nintendo and a Commodore 64. So you should check it
awesome.
out. It's very, very game-ish. It did definitely fit our Steam launch. Devolver liked it because of how game-ish it was. So if you're into games and you're into movies, this is not a movie about a game. This is a movie in which a game is featured and made by a gamer and a game maker. So there you go.
Interesting. Yeah. When I was a kid, if I misbehaved, my parents would take my controllers to my Nintendo, but they wouldn't take my Nintendo because they figured it was useless.
Yeah.
So I would turn it on and listen to the music.
That's
all the time. So I'm a big fan of chiptunes. In fact, I actually talked to Alex a couple weeks back about Star Mazer. Nice. He's the one that told me about it. I was just interviewing him because I liked his music, and he's the one that told me about Star Mazer. So that's why I got in touch with you. Yeah.
What's really interesting about that story you told me, I think I've heard stories similar to that a lot. I actually took apart my Nintendo Entertainment System. I was super into electronics and robotics and stuff when I was a kid. I mean, I still am, but back then even I was. And I soldered my Mega Man 3 cart into my Nintendo and cut away all the unnecessary control boards and stuff and carried it around. And all it did was play Mega Man 3 soundtrack, which was
crazy.
I already had a TurboGrafx 16 and I think a Super Nintendo at the time. So I was kind of like, I want to play this and listen to music rather than anything. So I made a little like custom Walkman out of it, which I think is in a storage container somewhere around here.
That's fantastic. That wouldn't have occurred to me as something that could even be done.
Oh yeah, no, it can be done. It requires 2 C batteries.
And how long do they last for?
Not long at all. And I have scars actually. I wish we had video. I could show you scars on my hands from soldering stuff when I was a kid. But yeah, man. No, that's I was super into it. Mega Man 1, of course, has incredible music with Manami Matsumai's score and sound design. And that got me into chip music. I blame her for getting me into chip music. So her being a part of the Star Mazer musical cast is a dream come true and a huge deal. Along with Keiji Yamagishi and Dan Mulcanen and Mega Ran. And I think there's 20 some people. They're all incredible. Did he tell you about that? Did Alex tell you about that?
He listed off a bunch of people. I'm really bad with names, so I didn't recognize most of them. Okay. But then it was hilarious. He mentioned Mega Ran.
Yeah.
And I had never heard of Mega Ran before.
What?
And I was scrolling. I know. I felt really bad because I was scrolling through Twitter and I saw somebody mention his name. And I thought, oh, that's familiar. What's that from? And I clicked on it and I said, Chip Hop? What the heck is Chip Hop? And I clicked on it and I have been listening to his songs nonstop since then.
That's incredible. He's actually going to be a fully voiced character in the game, which is really neat. So if you wouldn't mind me proselytizing for Star Mazer for a second, I'd like to go through the incredible musical artists we have on board. Is that cool?
Oh, yeah. I love it.
We've got Arcade High, which is an incredible neo-new wave synth pop outrun core style band that did an awesome video for the Star Mazer campaign. We have Bright Primate, who you'll know from Rain World. We have C. Jeff, who is an incredible like mad wizard of music. We have Cheap Dinosaurs, which he's a freaking awesome live performer. I don't know if you've seen anything that Cheap Dinosaurs has done, but he's incredible. We have Citrix, who's also an awesome live performer. We have the one, the only Danimal Cannon, who is the rockingest chiptune guitar effer out on the planet. We have Eric Sharkey, who did music for Spelunky. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Spelunky, but that's a game.
Yes.
We have Fighter X. No, of course you have. I was joking. We have Fighter X, who's awesome. We have Jacob Purnell, who co-founded the Edinburgh Game Symposium and is himself an incredible composer. We have John Robert Matz, who we worked with for the Ballad of Westerado. If you go see that spot that I saw, he is stunningly awesome with analog music. His Star Mazer remix, which you can find on our website, on our SoundCloud, or on our Kickstarter campaign, is brilliant. It's stunning. We have La Cassette, another Telefuture artist who is Telefuture is a label, by the way, an incredible label, my favorite label. Who is another new wave synth pop band. L Power also, but L Power is primarily does shmup sounding actiony music, and it's awesome. We have my favorite band of all time, Makeup and Vanity Set, who's known for 8888, which was a film / music project that became incredibly cool. We have the one, the only Manami Matsubai from Mega Man and UN Squadron and almost every memorable chiptune you've ever heard. We have Miles Tillman from Pixel Jam. I used to work with Pixel Jam. I mean, I guess I still do work with Pixel Jam, but we used to work like directly together on a bunch of stuff. Miles Tillman's a close friend of mine and also contributing to the soundtrack. We have Monomer, who's another new wave synth pop guy and great. We have Nickel Punk from Sports Ball. So if you like the music in Sports Ball, you will like the music in Star Mazer. We have Pong Ball, who is an awesome chiptunes artist. She's great. We have Raleigh Mingwald, another synth pop artist. Ryan Ike from Gunpoint, and from upcoming games that I wish I could tell you about, because they're the kind of things that shatter earths, but he's an incredible composer himself. We have Saber Pulse. We have, get ready guys, hold your pants up, we have Vert from Shovel Knight. That's a big deal. And finally, the man who makes the soundtracks to my dreams, we have Wave Shaper, who's another new wave synth pop guy. So we're going for that 80s and 90s sound. We're going for space. We're going for Outrun Core. We're going for the coolest, jamminest music. And of course, at the helm, running the entire musical situation, is Alex Maurer, who is, in my opinion, one of the best musical artists, not just chiptune artists, of all time. And I'm actually comparing him to, like, Mozart and stuff. I really do believe it. He is a genius. He is a phenom. This isn't me just saying marketing speak. I am jealous constantly of knowing this person. He's one of my closest friends, and just talking to him makes me feel inferior.
That is an amazing lineup. That is a lot of.
If the game sucks, the music will be great.
Yeah, we should get it. I mean, whether the game's good or not, we're going to get an awesome soundtrack to listen to.
Yeah. So the trick is, we're not actually making a game. We're making a soundtrack, and we're just using some Unity demo, and we're just going to sell the soundtrack. I'm kidding, obviously.
No, of course.
We're working very hard on a game right now.
So what can you tell me about Star Mazer? Like, what's the elevator pitch for that game?
Star Mazer is a retro sexy point-and-click adventure shoot 'em up in space. How is it that we are combining the point-and-click adventure genre, classic and beloved, with the shmup genre, also classic, if not a little niche, but also beloved? How are we taking those two things and stapling them together for an amazing video game experience? We're not.
Okay.
We're taking the best elements of those things, the cool parts of those things, and making a game that stands on its own. Yes, we will tell you that it's a point-and-click adventure shmup, because that's what it most looks like on the outside. But do you remember when Fight Club was being advertised? That movie Fight Club. You've heard of Fight Club. Everybody saw Fight Club. Fight Club is a great movie. Everybody loves Fight Club. But when it was advertised as a bunch of dudes punching each other. That was the trailer. It was Brad Pitt without his shirt. There's a bunch of dudes punching each other, and it tricked people. Brad Pitt is in that movie without his shirt on a bunch, and people punch each other in that movie. But that is a subversive, like, social commentary movie. That's a really cool, really awesome art film that tricked everybody into thinking it was Brad Pitt without a shirt on punching people. Those are elements of the movie, of course, really important elements of the movie. Most expressly, people punching each other, less expressly, Brad Pitt without a shirt. But you get it. The shmup element of Star Mazer is incredible and really important. It's about 50% of the game. The point and click adventure element of Star Mazer is similarly just as important, but there's no point in which the game freezes and says now entering shoot 'em up level, and then you jump into a shoot 'em up level and you blast and die a bunch of times. It's not that, it's seamless. So I use this analogy a bunch. If your listeners have heard of Star Mazer, they've probably heard me say this a bunch. Let's do an analog. Let's pretend I'm going to take two genres that we know about and kind of try to slam them together. Let's take platforming. More specifically, let's take Super Mario Brothers and slam that with Flappy Bird. Right? Outside of the fact that Flappy Bird stole those pipes from Super Mario Brothers, those two things don't really mix. Right? Those are two disparate genres, and they're really hard to slap together. That we're all nodding our heads in agreement, I hope, because that makes the next bit kind of work. When you jump into the water in Super Mario Brothers, you're playing Flappy Bird.
Wow.
Right?
You just blew my mind.
Mind explode!
Oh my God.
What Super Mario Brothers did was seamlessly transition between what we would consider today two disparate genres. Right?
Yeah.
Now, they are a little actiony, so it's easier to make that transition. But because ours is, walk around and talk to people. But we want to. The first thing we built when building the game, even before we started prototyping levels or even fleshing out all the characters, the first thing we built was, and we built this while we were making the Kickstarter campaign, was, can we seamlessly transition between point and click adventure and shoot 'em up? Can it feel like you just got into your ship and started shooting things? And yes, we did it. We believe it feels good. Every time we show it to people, they believe it feels good. So it's just a natural thing. You're a pilot, so of course you have a ship, and of course you go fly that ship around every once in a while and shoot some dudes. Skyrim is a first-person RPG. Well, yeah, there's crafting, there's all this other, there's a bunch of genres thrown into that game. I think the genre thing is the problem. Calling things a one game or another game, and how could you possibly make a crafting first-person game? Well, easy, it's Skyrim or it's Minecraft. You know what I mean? Like,
I'd say that Skyrim is like it's a single-player MMO almost.
Yeah, see, that works. And what's cool about that is those two genres totally work. Like a single-player story game, MMO, those two things together work in Skyrim, not because they're a natural fit for one another, because MMO and single-player are diametrically opposed, but because the game engine provided, the developers DOS provided. And that's what we're doing with Star Mazer. So Star Mazer is a point-and-click adventure shoot 'em up, and that shouldn't sound hard. It's all the things that you wanted when you were playing shoot 'em ups and wanted a story. It was, remember at the beginning of Gate of Thunder, if you've never played Gate of Thunder, just pretend you know, where there's like a 45-second intro, and all you want to do the rest of the game is figure out like who those people in that intro were and how that capital ship functioned, and what's the chain of command, and who's that really cool girl, and how does she relate to the main character, and all that stuff. That's what we try to do, is explore all of that. Why am I flying around in a ship shooting things? Why is there a great alien presence in the universe? Why am I fighting? And also, why is walking around talking to people and determining puzzles fun? If you played point-and-click adventure games and you really loved them, there was a major deficit that even the makers of point-and-click adventure games constantly tried to do, which was they kept trying to add action mechanics to their point-and-click adventure games, right?
Right.
Dave Gilbert, not Ron Gilbert, by the way, but Dave Gilbert, recently said that the point-and-click adventure genre is suffering because of story. Now that sounds really rough, right? Because the point-and-click adventure we primarily think of as a story genre, but he says the point-and-click adventure genre is best suited to puzzles, which is an interesting turn, because though he is a legend in game development and far superior to me in every way and is far more successful, I think he's wrong, honestly. I think when you make a puzzle game where you walk around to solve puzzles, you just have a puzzle game. I think that he's falling into the adventure game fallacy that I'm trying to address, which is an adventure game can't just be a story. It has to be a bunch of other shit. We have to include an arcade where you can go play arcade games, because God knows walking back and forth and doing a key gate puzzle with 15 steps in it and talking to a bunch of people who say the same thing over and over again is boring. It's just boring. The writing could be great. The animation could be amazing. The music could be stellar. But walking back and forth and doing a gate key puzzle with 15 steps is boring. And every once in a while, you need to go shoot things. So some games, Space Quest, for instance, included an arcade. They actually just put an arcade in there. You're probably bored playing our game. Go play another game that we made on the side that involves chickens and exploding stuff. This happened a lot. Full Throttle had a bunch of action mechanics to spice up and break up the not monotonous, not poorly written, not whatever. Just I don't think you should refine a story or a video game into a single hard-boiled closed genre.
Right, you need something to differentiate it.
You do. Shovel Knight is a story game. People don't want to believe that, but I cried at the end of Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight's a story game. Shovel Knight's it's a love story. Shovel Knight's a story about accommodation. It's a story about confidence. It's a story about love, and it's a story about empowerment. It's also a game where you jump around on a shovel. Like it's an action game, but it's got depth, and that's what makes it important. That's what makes it a viable and amazing game. Star Mazer, we're attempting. I'm not going to say we're Shovel Knight. Those guys are incredible. Jakob Gaines is stunning, and all those dudes over there, like when you meet them, your teeth wiggle with how like totally cool they are. They made something of value. They made something with depth. We're attempting that with Star Mazer. We're attempting to make a cohesive story game where you care about the characters, and there is story, and it's mostly story. It's not punctuated by action. Sometimes the story includes action. Does that make sense? It's a logical progression. It's not cut to a fight or go into an arcade and play an arcade game because our game's not working. It's, at this point, tension has gone. Now we're going to have to get into a fight. It might be a fist fight. It might be a blaster battle on a Docking Bay 88 between Brick and some bad guy. And it might be that they hop into their ships and chase each other down through the galaxy.
Very interesting.
That you go flying as a travel mechanic to go land on an asteroid and discover some ancient secret, which is actually, I'm not making that up. That's actually one of the episodes we're writing right now. But it's meant to be a story experience. As I said at the very beginning of our interview, I am a storyteller. I think you can have a story game. I think eschewing story for mechanics or adding mechanics to stories tells me that your story isn't compelling. If we have a compelling story, people want to know. And if we add action elements to the story, not in addition to the story and not stapled to the story, I think we'll be better off.
Well, I don't want to use the word easy, but when I think of the difference between writing a story for a movie, and writing a story for a game, I would think that the movie part would be a lot easier because you get to say, guess what, viewer, you're on my ride now, and you're going to see what I tell you to see. And on a game, the player gets in your way. Right. So
the player has agency.
Yeah. So if the player has agency, how is it like in Star Mazer? Can the player make decisions that influence the world of Star Mazer?
That's all the player can do. That's the trick about Star Mazer. So listen, I'm gonna speak first to your initial point in a really I'm gonna go very quickly because I know there are time limits and stuff, and I don't want to bore people. But you're totally, completely like a billion wrong with the easier thing. I think they're equal.
Okay.
And this is cool. I'm an award-winning screenwriter, and I only say award-winning to give myself a false sense of authority in this, even though I'm just a dude and you're just whatever. I'm just trying to win an argument at this point. Not really. But so check it out. When you write a screenplay, further when you make a film, but let's just pretend we're only going to do let's pretend everything I wrote just happened and became a film, which never happens. I mean, the film is totally different from the screenplay 99.9 repeating % of the time. But let's say the story writer or the screenwriter has total control. So now I have to manage a viewer, not one viewer, but every viewer who watches that movie. I have to manage his personal life and expectations every single second of my story. Everything I say has to make sense to one guy plus another guy plus another guy ad infinitum. If people see my movie, they need to get it, all of them. They can't make decisions on their own. They cannot imply things. They can't make guesses unless I'm David Lynch and it's all over the place and it's really well done and it makes people think. Unless it's that, I need to be incredibly clear. I need to appeal to artists. I need to appeal to grandmothers. I need to appeal to all these people unless I'm a genre filmmaker. And I need to do so in a clear, concise, artful way that also gets my story across. That's from my weird perspective from my own individual life. I have to manage every second of a 90 to 120 to, if you're an auteur, a 300-minute movie. Every second is vital. In a game, you can spend 20 minutes looking at a fucking wall. Though that moment craft isn't required. You can craft moments, but you don't need it. And here's the best part. The same thing that was killing me in making a movie, which is that there's a real live human being on the other end of that screen who has his own thoughts. That's my savior in a video game. I recently saw a GDC talk where, unfortunately, I don't remember the guy's name. He was incredibly funny, but the head writer / maker of the Stanley Parable did an incredible GDC talk, which is really hilarious. You should check it out. It's about writing humor into your games, where he pointed out that a lot of what happens in the Stanley Parable is not choice-based. You make all of the major choices, but we just imply, we being them, not us, the game maker implies the rest of the choices you've made. Mostly it's just randomly chosen. But there's a voiceover that implies that you made a choice. So, and the character will feel that he made a choice. You do all the work as the player. You get to make, because I give you agency, you can now think that the thing you did was important. I don't have to tell you how important it was. I don't have to convince you that it was important. You have an ego. You're a human being and you have value and you believe yourself to be able to make cogent decisions. And as such, the decisions you make, you think are right. So when you make a decision and it has effect in the game world, it doesn't matter whether or not I wanted you to make that decision. It was the right decision for you. And I don't have to figure out what the hell the right decision for you was. Star Mazer, the storytelling principle in Star Mazer is based on a principle of stacked simple systems. Our interlocking system, we call it the open middle gameplay system, the OMG, is, and that's a joke. Laugh, everyone.
Actually, hold on just a second. You cut off, and I could not understand you for about 30 seconds there. Could you go back to the stackable system? Sorry.
So the open middle gameplay system, our stack simple, it's a stack simple. That's the system that runs our story in Star Mazer. It's a series of stacked simple systems. It's incredibly simple. We use implication to make it seem incredibly complex. So I'm going to tell you a tiny little story. I used to mess with Beam Robotics. Look up Beam Robotics, BEAM Robotics, guys. You can Google that. This guy, Mark Tilden, came up with a way to emulate biological activity with simple electronic circuits. And I mean super simple, like 3-component electronic circuits. If you take a capacitor, I'm sorry if this gets a bit nerdy, I'm a nerd. If you take a capacitor serves one function. It fills up with energy, and when it's totally full, it dumps the energy. It fills up from one pin and dumps out the other pin. If you add to that capacitor a solar cell, you can now fill it and have it dump out, right? So that's simple. That's a simple circuit. I'm almost done, so this doesn't go super long. If you add to that 2 pager motors on either side of the capacitor, just glue them to the capacitor and let them sit on the ground, and put the solar cell on top. The solar cell will fill the capacitor will fill, it will dump its energy out of its pin into the pager motors, which will slide the capacitor along the ground, right? That's super simple.
Yeah.
So how do I make that do something other than slide forward? I can add photoresistors, little tiny resistors that are cross-wired on top of the capacitor, pointing opposite directions of the capacitor lead, and once it fills, the solar panel will fill up the capacitor will dump its energy, but it will dump its energy faster through the non-resisted portion of the circuit to one of the pager motors, which will make it now move toward the light. Look at that! I made an intelligent thing out of 4 pieces, right? It's not an intelligent thing at all.
That makes sense.
It's super simple. It's not intelligent. If I make 5 of them and put them together, and with one hyper-focused light source, they will now get in each other's way, which will cause a shadow to pass on top of the resistors. They will avoid each other toward going toward the light. I didn't change any of the systems. I just made more of them, and I made them stack next to each other and let their simple rules cause complex behavior. There's a big long talk I'm going to do at some point about how I did this once and I added a different guy, non-photovore. Those guys are the little photovores. I added a guy whose job was to hunt them down, and how they acted. They actually got together and murdered him, but it was all with these same like 4 principles, and it made incredibly complex behavior. But to physics and to math, it's not complex behavior. It's only complex behavior to human beings. We imply value to everything we do and say. If have you ever seen a kid talking to a plant before, or talking to a rock? We will or even a stuffed animal. We imply interaction and value and story to everything that we do. It's kind of what our brain does inherently. So instead of writing a giant overarching 10-hour story that you can permute and that has 9,000 branching trees, and one of those trees is going to piss off somebody and nobody's going to, what we do instead is we don't write a giant story. We write tiny little evocative story elements that can be triggered or shut off based on the current game state, and don't have to be complete. We use a fuzzy matching system to select what happens next, to select what somebody says in a situation, and it's all based on the current game state. So what happens is your actions affect the game state. The game state returns a mostly cogent match to what's happening, even if we haven't written a situation with the 3 choices you've made. The nearest match will happen, and your story will carry on. Now, how do we then tell a cool story with a beginning, a middle, and end? Well, what we do is we make some of those things only ever do one thing, or some of those things feel very like have a very strong impetus toward changing. Like there's a guy in our story who wants to blow up a space station. That's what he's going to do. You can do very little to stop him. You can kill him. You can try to talk him out of it, and it requires a lot of stuff to do to talk him out of it. But at one point in the game, if the game state is correct, he will then appear and try to blow up the station. His reasoning for trying to blow up the station may be caused by you. It may be caused by something else that was triggered by something you did. But what I'm saying is I'm not writing a 10-hour experience. I'm writing hundreds and hundreds of 30-second to 5-minute experiences. And I'm giving all those experiences, and that's not to include the actual shooting mechanics, which we'll get into in just a quick second. But I'm then building, or I'm not actually building, my Austin Montville, our incredible game developer, lead game developer. We have multiple developers, but our lead developer is writing an engine that will allow us then to wrangle that big pool of experiences and give them all flavors and categorize them and make sure they all pop up generally when they're supposed to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it almost sounds like you. If I'm understanding what you're saying, you're building puzzle pieces.
I am.
And then the game is putting the puzzle pieces together based on what the player is doing.
Correct. And the puzzle,
so like procedurally generating.
It's procedurally chunking, and we're not randomly generating anything. We are procedurally assembling a picture, and by the end, your story will be mostly unique. And when you play again, it will never be the same. And that's the replayability of it. Our experience we're targeting is an 8 to 10 hour experience, but an 8 to 10 hour experience you can play over and over and over again with multiple different results. So our little story modules are so. I described the most atomized version, these little moments. But we have what we call story modules. And these story modules, which internally are being referred to as episodes, they are made up of those atomized bits. And they each of them is supposed to clock in around an hour. And then those are then procedurally assembled to this 8 to 10 hour experience based on what you're doing. So let's say they're about an hour. That means 8 or 9 of them, you'll play through 8 or 9 of them when you play the game, and all of them will be flavored differently depending on the things you've done. And by the time you get to the end of the game, you will have played 8 or 9 of them. But if we ship with 20 of them, and your actions are dynamically popping in and out these little things as you go, every playthrough has an opportunity to be different and affect every other thing. And even if you have been to a place before or have run into a guy before, his response to you might be completely different because you just played a different set of circumstances before you met him. It's choose your own adventure, where we've written every word as an atomized object as opposed to every page. That sounded a bit awkward. I'm sorry, but I think you get it, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Sections are very similar. We procedurally chunk large events in the shmup world, but then padded out with procedurally generated shmup patterns and sections that react and respond to things you've done. If you pissed off the pirates, they're going to be more pirates. If you're really good at dodging one thing, the game might get wise and try to make that pattern deviate a bunch to kill you and that kind of thing.
Very cool. What's the weirdest idea that came up during development that you guys didn't end up putting in the game, or that you don't think will end up in the game, since I know you're still working on it?
All right, this is going to piss everyone on my team off because I'm the only person who hates it. I think it's the weirdest idea. we were crafting all of our characters. There's a character that Maximo, our lead artist, pitched, and he drew all this kind of concept art for it, everything. It's Dog Pilot. So we're in an infinite universe where like there's an infinite type of animal, or I'm sorry, an infinite type of aliens and stuff. So Dog Pilot was his pitch for one of the characters. It's a dog. It's like a mutt, and it's also like an incredible pilot. And Dog Pilot is he can't communicate with anything but dog barks, and he loves like being social and needs somebody to kind of give him some direction, but he's an incredible pilot, and you meet him and he becomes your friend. And everybody thought Dog Pilot was the coolest idea, and I hated it, and I put the kibosh on it. And during literally, and we do a stand-up meeting every day. We meet multiple times a day about different elements, and we have massive 3-day office every day. The entire team meets for an office day 3 times a week. Every day we're working. Every single meeting, somebody effing mentions Dog Pilot, and I want to murder them. So maybe that's not the weirdest idea globally, but to me, it immediately like pulls the dramatic story out of Star Mazer, Dog Pilot. They love it. They think it's the greatest. And there's some funny stuff. I mean, I'm also the guy who advocated having a sentient race of slices of pizza. So maybe I'm not the best guy to make the Dog Pilot determination. That was pretty weird. There's also there's also an idea where I don't think we're going to do it, but where you play only one story element over and over again through a playthrough, but what you do in one of them changes that over and over again. It's basically the Stanley Parable, I guess, but just for one little story element.
Like Groundhog Day?
Like Groundhog Day, exactly, yeah.
Oh, okay. Very interesting.
But unfortunately, we have so much story to get off before our expected delivery date of early to mid next year, that we want to, before we start making kitschy, like not fun, they're all going to be fun, but it's before we start making gimmick episodes, we definitely need to make the story ones all shine first.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Is Star Mazer going to be at E3 this year?
It is not. This was a very big discussion. We have been to almost every possible gaming convention we could get to and been featured somehow in those gaming conventions since we launched our Kickstarter. We made it a huge point. We have a massive amount of fans, which we call Mazers, who join us on Star Mazer Television 3 times a week. I'll tell you about SMTV in a minute. Please remind me to do so because it's something I need to plug. But we have a bunch of these Mazers, and they love coming to events, and we love meeting them, and we love talking to them, and we love giving speeches, and we love letting people see what we're doing. And it's been a huge point. But E3 it's smack dab, like it's starting like this week, next week, right? It's starting right when we're supposed to be transitioning from doing pre-production into full-on production, which will be an announcement. I think actually you may have, depending on how we're traveling through time, you may have already seen the announcement or not. I don't know, depending on how late I am with the announcement. But there will be a cool video announcement. Keep your eyes out for it on StarMazer.com and on the StarMazer Facebook page. But there will be an announcement about us going into full production. That's right now. We're in the middle of making that transition in a full-time. I mean, it's been full-time pre-production, but like full-time production. We locked a publisher, which we'll be announcing right after E3, and we'll be going to full-time production like in the next couple weeks. And we can't leave. We can't leave, man. We can't go onto a plane. We can't go sell the game to a bunch of people who already bought it. Well, we should be building it. So right now our obligation is to the 5,055 people who backed it on Kickstarter, plus a bunch of people who Slacker backed it, plus all of our fans to make a game. So unfortunately, we won't be at E3. And by the way, that saddens me to a great deal. There's stuff going on at E3 this year that is groundbreaking. All of the virtualization of VR headset stuff, I want to be in there. I want to go just lose my mind about Fallout 4, which has got to be, I mean, I don't know if Star Mazers are going to get done this year since Fallout 4 is coming out.
Yeah.
My time playing Fallout 4. But I would love to beat E3, and I know our team that was a big. We always thought like if we make the Kickstarter, that moves us to a 50% chance of taking Star Mazer to E3, but we're not going to be able to make it, unfortunately. And I know it's going on, and I'm really sorry, guys, that we're not there. You can find us on Star Mazer TV during E3, though, and we'll definitely be talking about E3 stuff. But yeah, I'm sorry we're not there. We're making a game. That's what we're doing. We had to. Sometimes you need to sacrifice. Isn't this the most like first world problem ever? Oh man, I can't go to the amazing video game convention because I'm busy making a video game. Like that's
Yeah, I know. You're
that's not
making
a
your
complaint, but it is sad.
But listen, you better get that game done before November because that's when I think Fallout 4 is going to come out, and we know we're not going to see you after that.
It's not going to be done before then, man. But maybe what I can do is I can get the game to the point where all we're doing is adding assets and polishing, and maybe I can hire another writer or something, and just be like, yeah, looks good, guys. I'm going to go do some quote unquote more work where I'm actually just playing on. Or I'm just playing Fallout 4. But yeah, no, I know that we're going to be showing at PAX. Our publisher has a big booth at PAX, and we'll be there. I'm not allowed to mention the publisher yet. I mean, mention who it is. We will be announcing right after E3. We didn't want to get lost in the E3 hubbub with our announcement. But our publisher will definitely be at PAX this year. Manami Matsumai, the composer for Mega Man, will also be at our booth this year for at least 1 or 2 of the days. She might even be doing a performance based on Star Mazer at PAX. So we'll see. That's still in the works, but that's cool news for you. That's a scoop. I haven't mentioned that to anybody yet. So there you go. But we'll definitely have something to play. We're thinking it's maybe just 1 episode or something, but something to play at PAX Prime this year. So definitely come check us out there. I'll give hugs and stickers and gameplay to anybody who wants to come and check us out.
And if you haven't seen the art, you got to get these stickers because the dude with the cigarette, what's his name?
Yeah, Brick Stonewood. The main character in our game's name is Brick M. Stonewood. The M stands for metal. He is basically Han Solo, but dumber and with better hair.
Yeah, he's got fantastic hair.
He's the world's best pilot. He's incredible. He's also a bit of a jerk, and he needs to learn what it means to be a real hero, which is the entire story of Star Mazer. Trying to determine what it is to be a real hero. It's not having a cool ship, a cigarette, and being blonde.
Fair enough.
What makes you a hero.
So is the game more of a? I noticed that you said you mentioned earlier a hashtag dog pilot. That the dog pilot kind of. I love that idea, by the way. I'm sorry.
Yeah, everybody loves Dogpilot. I feel like the sequel to Star Mazer is Dogpilot.
Oh, see, there you go. His first DLC.
First DLC, Dogpilot.
The Dogpilot, you said, kind of might pull away from the dramatic punch of the story. Is it a drama? Is it a comedy? Is it a dramedy?
It's a dramedy. It's
Okay.
there are some serious things in there, and I really want. I said to somebody in one interview, it sounded totally pretentious, so I never said it again. But I'll say it now. I wanted to make a shmup that makes you cry. That doesn't mean it's a sad game. There might be a sad story element in it. But there's a lot of comedy, a lot of callbacks, a lot of crossovers. But I do want there to be a dramatic heft to it. Every story needs to have some dramatic heft, even comedies. Think back to your favorite comedy. There's probably some element of it that actually does have stakes. You know what I mean? That actually, yeah. Like, I don't know if I'm going to piss off some Adam Sandler fans or whatever, but the reason I don't like Adam Sandler films is they don't have stakes. I don't believe that anything could actually affect anybody in those movies. Where there are some comedy movies, some great, all your classic comedy movies have stakes. Three Amigos, there's a part of that movie. It's the Three Effing Amigos. It's a dumb movie. It's a great comedy movie, and it's also a movie where there's a point in the movie where if you're a softie, you might tear up a little bit. But it's a comedy. It's not even in a dramedy category. But to tell great comedy, you need tragedy. To tell great comedy, you need drama, and that's I think that's leveraging drama in comedy is definitely something we want to do, and leveraging comedy and drama is something we want to do as well. So yeah, I would call it a dramedy, I guess is the right thing. It's not a soap opera. It's not a sitcom. It's a fun story. It's a fun story.
Very cool. Is there anything else that you want people to know before we finish up?
Star Mazer Television. It's our Twitch stream. Star Mazer TV. You can go to it. It's StarRRMazer.tv. Star Mazer TV is we have 3 shows a week. Tuesdays is me and other famous indie devs, and we talk about. We had Rami on. We're having all kinds of cool people. I don't know why I just named off Rami. I could name off like a million people. I guess it's because I was just talking to him. Whatever. Who cares? We have a whole bunch of cool people showing off their games. We talk about development of Star Mazer. We answer a bunch of questions. We leak a bunch of stuff and have contests where you give away a bunch of cool stuff. This is on Tuesdays. And then on Thursdays, we have a rotating set of shows. So every third Tuesday or Thursday, it's a different show. So like this Thursday, yesterday, I guess, we did StarMazer.make, where our lead game developer, Austin Montville, actually develops a portion of the game on the Twitch stream. We have Star Jams, which is Alex Maurer doing live music for Star Mazer, like making music for Star Mazer. We have Draw Mazer, where Maximo Villarenzo, our lead artist, actually does concept art and other art for Star Mazer. And we have Star Mazer Plays, which is Star Mazer Versus, which is Kazuo Maeda, our social guy, actually challenges the Mazers to some really cool multiplayer game. And all the while, all of these shows discuss Star Mazer exclusively, not exclusively, a lot. Then on Saturday is a big party day. The entire Star Mazer crew gets together, or most of us get together and play a game. Normally it's like an adventure game or a shmup game or something to kind of like suss out the mechanics. But sometimes it's a really cool game. This Saturday, for instance, we're finishing the amazing Axiom Verge with Akash Thacker from Hyper Light Drifter and Ryan Ike from a million other games. You should go check them out. They'll be here, and I think Renee Gittins from Potions is coming, and we're all going to finish up. It'll be our third playthrough, but we're going to finish up Axiom Verge. So that's StarMazer.tv is a great place to get your Star Mazer information, a great place to meet the people who are making Star Mazer. So I guess that's something we didn't talk about that I'd love to talk about. StarMazer.tv.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And where can people?
Tuesdays.
3 times a week.
Yeah.
All right, you kind of went out there. He said 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Am I
correct?
Right?
And
okay.
It's at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard.
All right, very cool. Where can people find more information about Don Thacker and Star Mazer? Oh, they coming for you?
Yeah, they're coming for me, baby. Sorry, I'm just. Blah, 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 stand by for ambulances. So I'm in Seattle, and this happens at least twice a day. I'm originally from Detroit, and I didn't hear as many ambulances as I hear in Seattle now. Okay, so you can find out more information about Star Mazer at starmazer.com, StarMazer.com. Star Mazer. There's 2 R's because it's twice as many R's as any other Star titled game. You can go to facebook.com/Star Mazer. You can go to Star Mazer on Twitter. You can follow us on Instagram at Star Mazer. You can follow us. Our YouTube channel is incredible. We have hundreds of videos, and they're all very cool. And if you miss any StarMazer.tv shows, you can check it out on YouTube. That's youtube.com/user/ I don't know, whatever. Just look up Star Mazer on YouTube. You'll find our channel. It's awesome. Or you can go to StarMazer.com or StarMazer.tv and find the links there if you're lazy and don't want to look it up. You can find us on, is that everything? No, the SoundCloud. Our SoundCloud has a ton of music from Star Mazer. And as we pointed out, the music from Star Mazer is incredible. So go there, go to SoundCloud, check out Star Mazer. Tumblr, StarMazer.tumblr.com is a direct link to our dev blog, or you can just click the link on StarMazer.com. We update multiple times a day. So check that out for Star Mazer. So that's all the Star Mazer goodness. If you want to find out more about Imagos Films or Imagos Softworks, you can find those at their respective social and website presences. So Imagos Films is IMAGOSFILMS.com. We also have a Tumblr blog where we show all of our behind the scenes stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff going on in there. You should check it out. And you might, if you're smart, you might be able to figure out some neat leaky stuff coming up. There's Imagos Films has a Twitter account, a Facebook account, Vine account, all the other stuff. So does Imagos Softworks, though we don't really touch it too much. It's like Cobbler's Shoes situation. ImagosSoftworks.com is basically just like a little Cobbler's Shoes style brochure page that tells you that we're great and we're making a game. Star Mazer is where you want to find all of your information. Love us, talk about us, check us out. If you want, and you want to see a movie for less than $3, and it's a cool movie that Star Mazer's in, go see Motivational Growth. Check it out on Steam during their Steam summer sale. It's a featured sale item, so go check that out. I'm sure there's a link somewhere, and if the summer sale is still going on Tuesday, which I think it is, you guys should check it out. It might be really cool. I would hope that you like it, and if you don't like it, you should tell me everything you don't like about it, so I don't screw up like that again. But it's a feature film. It includes Star Mazer and a bunch of really cool stuff. And I will give you an exclusive leak. A character from the movie Motivational Growth will be featured predominantly in the game Star Mazer, and it's none of the characters have already been revealed in Star Mazer. So,
all right.
You should. That's a leak for you, and that's incentive for you to go spend that less than $3. But it's like $2.40, guys. That you spend more on running the hairdryer, or like buying a taco, or getting some coffee, or having, like I said, 1 1/2 cigarette. I think. I don't know. I don't smoke, but I know that they're really expensive. So there you go.
Awesome. So thank you so much.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me on.
This is normally the part where I say, that's it for this week. But that's not it for this week. That was just for day 1 of E3, and I'll be talking about day 2 of E3 tomorrow. So make sure that you tune in. If you want to be part of the show, you can get a hold of me at runjumpstomp@gmail.com. You can also call in at 260-RUN-JUMP. That's 260-786-5867. You can also find me on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube at Run, Jump, Stomp. As always, thanks for listening, and I'll see you tomorrow.